Hello Unites and welcome to week 7 of remote learning. Myself and Miss Osterman are super excited to have made it this far with you. Week 7 is of course revision week when we just stop everything. There's no new content. We just need to go back and have a look at what we have covered in history from the start of the year to today. And at the very start of the year, we started off by saying we're going to look at 4 big events causing change in the modern era. They were, of course, the development of European empires, the Industrial Revolution, the movement of vast numbers of people around the world, and the spread of new ideas. 4 big events causing change that led to the modern world. And then, of course, once we did that, we jumped into the Industrial Revolution. And we hope that you have enjoyed learning all about that so far. And as I keep harping on about, the Industrial Revolution was a British revolution. But why Britain? Why this tiny little spot off the coast of Europe? What was it about that place that caused the Industrial Revolution? Let's click over and have a quick look at...
question, and that's why we're going to look at the map. Which we have right here.
So this comes straight out of your textbook.
Yep.
Up on the screen behind me, as you can see, the map of the world with some parts coloured in pink. What are those pink parts, Miss Osterman?
They are the British Empire, Mr. Johnston, and as we can see, that was quite vast. So it wasn't just England, which was quite small in itself, but parts of, as you can see here with my cursor, it's the Indian Empire, Egypt, parts of Africa, vast parts of Africa, Australia almost in its entirety, there Canada, and then lots and lots of islands like the West Indies, a lot of the places that play cricket today. So
Yes.
we had a lot of parts of the British Empire. So this is around 1900. So from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution right through to close before World War One, they were in charge of this.
They indeed built the largest, probably wealthiest empire in the history of humanity. The largest empire, fully 1/5 of all the landmass, 1/5 of all people who were alive on the planet Earth were citizens or subjects of the British empires. But what was it? Why is it that the Industrial Revolution could cause such a vast empire to come into being? And there's sort of 3 reasons why the Industrial Revolution occurred in Britain. And that is this. One was the spirit of entrepreneurship that had been caused by what we call the Agricultural Revolution. That was that farmers were sort of seeking new technologies and new ways to generate food. So it was very much a see a problem, fix a problem, see a need, fill a need, which caused this spirit of entrepreneurship, this problem solving to develop. And so they were really looking to develop techniques, systems and strategies.
And that was quite unique for Europe at the time. So the British were definitely the people who were leading that path. And a lot of you have made great models out of that time. I had lots of agricultural models in my class. Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's the entrepreneurship. What was the other one?
So this spirit of entrepreneurship, and this was occurring only in Britain, as Miss Osterman says, because they didn't have restrictive governments. Britain at the time had a constitutional monarchy, had a parliamentary system. They had elected leaders making their laws, whereas the rest of Europe, indeed the rest of the world really, had one guy, a king or a queen, sitting on top, and they had very, very restrictive laws. They didn't want things to change because it suited them. In Britain it was different. They had an elected parliament, so they did not have laws stopping them from solving problems in a unique way. So, problem solving with the spirit of entrepreneurship, which caused the Agricultural Revolution, less restrictive government control, and the last thing, what's the big thing, Miss Osterman? The number 1 reason? Coal. Plentiful supply of coal.
So if you're looking back to our map, Britain was fortunate that they had so much of it. There were other countries in Europe who had coal, but Britain was definitely the leader at that time.
Absolutely. Other places, as Mr. Osterman just said, Germany has a huge supply of coal, but had very, very restrictive government. Britain had the Agricultural Revolution, causing a spirit of entrepreneurship, see a problem, fix a problem. Had less restrictive government, so they were allowed to do things. And a plentiful supply of coal. Coal is the key. It's the spark that set the Industrial Revolution aflame. And from that spirit of entrepreneurship, allowed by the government with plentiful supply of coal, we are off to the races at about 1750 with the steam engine, coal-fired steam engine, being the big invention that really sets everything off.
And I think in our last week before the holidays, we talked about all the industries that relied on coal, like the steel manufacturing,
Yep.
the iron manufacturing. So a lot of the other engine, not just engine building, but all the
Yep.
different products that relied on the coal. So bridge building, anything that required materials that were made out of metal, they
Yep.
wouldn't have been able to function if there wasn't such an ample coal supply.
Yep. And then once it gets going, money's what powers it. As Miss Osterman has just told you, it's absolutely true. It becomes this circular thing where it just keeps feeding itself. The steam engines are used to pump water out of the mines so that the miners can gain access to more coal. These steam engines need more coal. So the more coal you have, the more coal you can burn. Then once you're pulling all this coal out of the ground, you've got to move a large quantity of it. What do you need?
Again,
The train. You need a steam train.
The
You need,
transport.
yeah. And in order to power steam trains, what do you need? You need tracks, which need steel. In order to make steel, you need blast furnaces. In order to have those
Once
furnaces,
again,
you need
coal.
coal. So it just keeps feeding itself over and over and over. And because we have this spirit of entrepreneurship, people are constantly seeking to make things better. So the steam engines, they get smaller, they get more powerful, they can do more, and because they get smaller, they go from pumps to trains.
right.
We even have some steam cars, which is amazing.
The first ones. So there were lots of positive developments in this time that were fantastic, and a lot of work was created through all these new jobs. But
Yep.
then on the downside, and we have to talk about that, there were also situations like children being put into the mines because they were small enough to work underground and
Yep.
shuffle the coal. And there were lots and lots of really hard working conditions, and for example, unsafe work, especially
Yeah.
for children and for people who work in mines where there were explosions and blasting and there was no safety as we have it today.
Yeah.
There were no unions looking after the workers. So there was a time of great development, but also
Yep.
a time where workers' rights and people's individual conditions were not so good. And that was the side effect of the industry.
Absolutely. So in amongst all of this incredible inventiveness and this explosion of new machines and new ideas, you get lots and lots of profits being made, which meant people became exploited. Because of the agricultural revolution, there's more food, which means there's more people.
Yes.
Luckily, there's all these new industries, there's these new factories being caused by the Industrial Revolution, so there's work. But they're not working in good conditions.
No.
I mean, it's good for the rich, the people who are making all the money from these mines and these factories and all these things. But then the people who are actually driving the trains, they're working in the mines, they're working in the factories, they're replaceable. They're
And
seen as largely
again, the
replaceable.
downside of the situation is that the people on farming were replaced by machines. So that was great
Yep.
for the people who owned the farming. And you remember that they were enclosures. So
Yep.
people who had more money were able to combine little farming areas and make more money out of it. But then if farmers got replaced by the plow or the seed drill or things that were all being done on foot by people before, a lot of people became unemployed. And where did they go?
They flooded into the cities. So Great Britain went from being a rural area where most people lived in the countryside to being an urban country where most people lived in the cities. And they flooded the cities looking for jobs and jobs in the factories. And that just told the factory owners, if you don't do what I say,
Yep.
there's 20
So
more
they
people
could pick
looking
and
for a
choose,
job.
and they didn't have to make the conditions better for
Did
the
not
workers.
have to make the conditions better. So on the one hand, yes, you've got wonderful innovation, you've got new technologies, advances in medicine, in health, in food, in clothes. But on the other side, you've got more exploitation. You've got people not looking after each other. You've got people being hurt in the workplace, unsafe, unsanitary conditions, being exploited by these new machines and these new systems being developed. So the Industrial Revolution involves all of these amazing things. But it created the world that we have today, doesn't it, Miss Austin? You could probably name a couple of things right now. What do we have today from the Industrial Revolution?
Well, if you're looking at the telephone, to one of the later inventions, all our communications, and that was the work we did last week, in week 6, then you could go back to any driving. We still have trains,
we still have trains,
and we still have coal mining, unfortunately, in lots of ways.
still
because
use coal.
It's not very environmental, but we still do rely on coal.
So we get modern clothing from there. We get surgery starts now. The modern printing movement, all books. In fact, just about everything we do today, up to and probably including computing, has its origins in this little island called Great Britain, starting with the Industrial Revolution. So 1750 to 1918, that time is this incredible explosion of invention. It's where we get electricity from, which is incredible.
Yeah, the light bulb, everything goes back to those times.
Everything goes back to those times. So that's the industrial...
To our sheet.
Let's go back to our sheet. So we've created a revision sheet. We've gone through, we've looked at everything we've talked about, and learnt in the classes, and we've made this revision sheet for you, and we want you to use it as you get ready for the time of testing. So right here, we're going to plug it into your Google Classroom. That's it, Google Classroom. And it's just point by point series of questions to help you consolidate understanding. Now, it's really important, guys. This is not a rush catch-up sheet. You need to have done the lessons. You need to have done the work. This is revision. This is consolidation of learning. So I would like you to use this to go point by point, and it hits on every point that we've learned in history so far. On the test, everything on the test will come from this sheet.
Yeah.
There we
That's
go.
it. And we're giving you the whole week this week to revise and go over.
Yep.
So there's no new work on Google Classroom because you're going back over these.
Go back over this. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can hit us up during our Zooms. If it's really urgent, you can hit us up via email. We're here for you. We really look forward to helping you be successful. Ms. Osman, any last points?
No, that's it for me. We'll see you in our Zoom.
See you in the Zoom.